Ballerina is out in theaters, also known as From the World of John Wick Ballerina, which I just hate when movies titles do that. It explains so bluntly which series they're a part of, not trusting the audience to connect the dots. Anyway, directed officially by Len Wiseman, we'll get to that in a minute, starring Ana de Armas, Keanu Reeves, Ian McShane, Angelica Houston, Gabriel Byrne, Catalina Sandino Moreno, Norman Reedus, and Lance Reddick in his final posthumous role. Follows Eve, an orphaned girl trained to be a bodyguard slash assassin by the Ruska Roma, who in adulthood discovers that the killers of her father are still alive, still out there, and she vows to find and destroy them. So this film has had a very interesting and a very rocky history. It first started out about a decade ago as a script unrelated to the John Wick universe. It was an action comedy. Then it was decided maybe it would be cool to make it a spin-off of John Wick, and the screenplay was reworked with Lady Gaga initially in mind for the lead role. Then the actual main actress became Ana de Armas, the director became Len Wiseman, who made some of the Underworld movies 20 years ago. Ballerina was shot in 2022. The final cut was ready in 2023 with a planned release for 2024. But then they did the test screenings, and leaks say that this film was a catastrophe back then. Apparently it was unwatchable and the action was terrible, and people were worried that it would just ruin the entire series and then be a stain on its legacy. So much so that Chad Stahelski, the director of the main John Wick movies, paused pre-production on his next film, the Highlander reboot starring Henry Cavill, and came in to do extensive reshoots, pushing the release date to 2025. Now, this is where it gets dicey. Len Wiseman says that there were no reshoots, just additional scenes being filmed. Other sources claim there were reshoots and they went on for a whole month. Others still 3 months in order to redo most of the action in the film. Hard to say who to believe in the end, but for sure a good chunk of the movie was changed, and the new test screenings were much more positive, resulting in the movie being released in its current shape or form. The big question being, is it any good? I'd say it's okay. I think the reshoots of or re-editing or inserting new action didn't fix all of its problems, and it's still uneven and flawed. But there are things about it which are absolutely brilliant. I'll start with the flaws. The story is terrible, and some of the emotional beats, like the sister reveal, do not work at all. The villain is not interesting or cool. The dialogue is absolutely abysmal. The pacing of the first half is shaky. It feels like the movie takes forever to get going. And some of the logistics don't really make a lot of sense. Like the prologue ends with the bad guy walking away, even though he could snatch Eve easily at that point, which was his entire goal. Or later on, when the bad guys have every opportunity to kill her in Prague, but just leave her for the Continental Security? Why? Why would they do that? And some of the performances are a bit weak. Mostly Angelica Houston seems bored to be in this film. However, this is an action picture, and when it comes to the action, it does this weird thing where the first prologue sequence is kind of mediocre. Then the next one is alright. Then the next one is good. And on it goes, improving itself with every single action set piece until the last 30 minutes or so are just insanely good fun. And it's not just that the action is just fun and well shot and choreographed, and that Ana de Armas is doing an excellent job of sort of following in the footsteps of Keanu Reeves in the fight scenes. It's been clear already in No Time to Die that she's willing to do this stunt work and put herself on the line. And again, in here she sort of maintains the legacy of the main series. But it's not just that, it's also that the action is clever in the sense that she is not John Wick. She's smaller, weaker, and she has to rely on her wits and creativity to best her enemies. It's a different type of fights. And a lot of them are crazy inventive. Like, there are things here that I don't think I've seen done in movies before. There's the sudden car ramming at the beginning where you think it's the end of the action sequence, but it suddenly jumps back up. There's the ice club fight. There's the grenade sequence, the restaurant fight with the brilliant gag with the plates. And all of it culminates with the flamethrower duel, which is some of the most impressive stunt work I've ever seen. How these people didn't burn to death while shooting the movie, I have no idea, but it looks and feels brilliant. Also, I think the film would have worked without John Wick's actual appearance, but even when he does show up, it makes sense for the story and doesn't cheapen his own character and skills, so I'm good with that. So, end of the day, I'm still reluctant to call it a good movie. I think it's a mediocre story dressed up into some excellent action, but also with the caveat that that action needs time to ramp up. Once the movie finds its footing, it becomes very fun to watch, but that doesn't remove its flaws completely. Still, it is fairly impressive that the extensive reshoots did save it somewhat. I struggle to think of another movie that had to be redone by a different director and came out okay. The two examples I can think of are The Island of Dr. Moreau and Justice League, and both turned out terrible. So Ballerina can at least take historic credit for this feat, at least.